For the longest time, Randy has been perceived by everyone in town as nothing more than a hardened operative, a man willing to do the dirty work for anyone who could afford his highly specialized, albeit morally bankrupt, services. He navigated the shadows of the city with a cold detachment, expertly building a wall around his conscience. However, after numerous and increasingly profound interactions with Mona, a monumental shift began to occur deep within Randy's psyche. For the very first time in his tumultuous life, he felt the undeniable warmth of genuine human belief. Mona did not look at him with the usual mixture of fear, disgust, or transactional expectation. Instead, she looked at him with an unwavering conviction that he still possessed the capacity for goodness. She firmly believed that he still had a legitimate chance to start his life over, to rebuild his identity from the ground up, and to leave his dark past behind. It was this pure, unadulterated faith that finally cracked Randy's hardened exterior, making him realize that he no longer harbored any desire to continue existing as a mere disposable tool for Haley's malicious machinations. However, the timing of Randy's profound internal awakening could not have been more critical or dangerous. Just as he was actively formulating a plan to quietly withdraw from the criminal underworld and sever his ties with his dangerous employers, he stumbled upon a terrifying piece of information. He discovered, to his absolute horror, that Haley was meticulously preparing to execute the final, devastating step in her long-running, convoluted plan aimed directly at destroying Bill. Randy was intimately aware of every single detail of this nefarious plot, and the reason for his comprehensive knowledge was a heavy burden on his soul. He was the very instrument Haley had been utilizing all along. For months, Randy had been tasked with the clandestine surveillance of Bill, relentlessly tracking the older man's every move, meticulously logging his daily schedule, and, most disturbingly, gathering highly sensitive information regarding Bill's deteriorating health condition. As the reality of Haley's endgame became crystal clear, Randy found himself plunged into an agonizing moral struggle that threatened to tear him apart from the inside out. He spent sleepless nights wrestling with his fiercely awakened conscience, running through every possible scenario in his mind. The terrifying truth was inescapable. If he chose the path of least resistance and continued to remain silent, Bill would inevitably lose absolutely everything he had spent a lifetime building. Furthermore, given the ruthless nature of Haley's final strike and the exploitation of Bill's fragile health, Randy knew with chilling certainty that Bill might even lose his very life. The weight of this impending tragedy was simply too much for Randy to bear. In a desperate bid for salvation, both for Bill and for his own soul, Randy made the incredibly dangerous decision to seek out Mona before doing anything else, resolving to confess the entire unvarnished truth to the only person who had ever shown him grace. When Randy finally sat down with Mona in a secluded, secure location, the atmosphere was incredibly tense. As he began to unburden himself, pouring out the dark secrets of his recent activities, Mona listened in stunned silence. Initially, she simply could not process the sheer magnitude of his confession. She found it almost impossible to believe that the man she had been trying to save was entangled so deeply in such a sinister, life-threatening conspiracy. But the shock of Randy's direct involvement paled in comparison to the absolute horror she experienced when he revealed the true scope of the operation. Randy made it explicitly clear that he was not acting alone, nor was Haley the ultimate authority in this web of deceit. According to Randy's detailed and explosive testimony, Haley, despite all her posturing and aggressive maneuvering, was merely the architect of the immediate tactical plan. She was the face of the operation, the one executing the maneuvers on the ground. However, the true mastermind, the shadowy figure standing safely behind the curtain, providing the massive influx of illicit funding, directing the overarching strategy, and utilizing powerful connections to protect the entire operation was none other than Joey. This revelation was a seismic shock. Randy meticulously detailed how Joey had repeatedly demanded that he carry out deeply unethical and illegal activities to serve Joey's own selfish, hidden interests. Randy confessed to a litany of past crimes orchestrated by Joey, including the elaborate scheme designed specifically to frame Sammy for crimes he did not commit, the aggressive and terrifying tactics used to put immense pressure on Doug, and most recently, the systematic step-by-step campaign to help Haley completely isolate Bill from his support network, leaving him incredibly vulnerable to their final attack. Faced with this overwhelming mountain of dark truths, Mona knew that there was only one path forward. With tears in her eyes but an iron resolve in her voice, she passionately convinced Randy that the only conceivable way to truly atone for his numerous sins and earn the redemption he so desperately craved was to step into the light. She implored him to become a star witness, to go to the authorities, and to voluntarily hand over every single piece of concrete evidence he had meticulously gathered and preserved during his time working for the syndicate. Randy listened to her impassioned plea, the weight of the world resting heavily on his shoulders. After a long, agonizing silence, he finally nodded his head in agreement. He fully understood the gravity of his decision. He knew with absolute certainty that stepping forward meant he would inevitably have to face the harsh reality of the legal system and accept the severe consequences for his own criminal actions. Yet the prospect of saving an innocent life and finally breaking free from Joey's tyrannical grip gave him the courage he needed. Meanwhile, entirely oblivious to the massive storm gathering on the horizon, Joey remained wrapped in a cocoon of arrogant confidence. He had absolutely no idea that his most reliable operative had suddenly and decisively changed sides. Joey continued to operate under the dangerously false assumption that Haley's meticulously crafted plan was progressing flawlessly and that their ultimate victory over Bill was practically guaranteed. He went about his daily life projecting the image of a successful, legitimate businessman, completely unaware that the foundation of his secret criminal empire was rapidly crumbling beneath his feet. The climax of this incredible saga unfolded in a manner that no one could have possibly predicted. Just as the conspirators believed they were on the verge of total triumph, Randy made a dramatic, unexpected appearance alongside Mona. They arrived at a crucial gathering, standing face to face with Bill and all the key individuals whose lives had been deeply affected by the ongoing manipulations. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly from casual conversation to palpable tension as Randy, his voice remarkably steady despite the immense pressure, began to methodically reveal the entire horrifying truth. Every word he spoke acted like a hammer blow, shattering the carefully constructed illusions that had dominated their lives for so long. The power dynamics in the room inverted in the blink of an eye as the full extent of the conspiracy was dragged out of the shadows and into the unforgiving light of day. Among all the people present in that fateful room, the person who absorbed the most devastating, life-altering shock was undoubtedly Vanessa. For a very long time, Vanessa had fiercely defended Joey. She had convinced herself that the rumors and the occasional red flags were simply the unfortunate byproducts of a highly competitive corporate environment. She had truly believed that Joey had merely made some aggressive, perhaps slightly unethical business mistakes in his pursuit of success. But as she listened to Randy's undeniable testimony, the terrifying reality washed over her like a tidal wave of ice water. She was forced to confront the sickening truth that Joey had actively and maliciously manipulated Randy, using him as a weapon to systematically destroy the lives of innocent people. As she stared at the man she thought she knew, Vanessa realized with profound heartbreak that the man she loved had been hiding a completely different, monstrous face behind a mask of charm and affection. In that agonizing moment of clarity, her love fractured into a million irreparable pieces, and she made the incredibly painful but necessary decision to walk away and leave him forever. As these shocking revelations continued to pour forth, Haley quickly realized that she had absolutely no avenue of escape left. Her usual tactics of deflection, manipulation, and denial were rendered completely useless in the face of the overwhelming proof arrayed against her. Randy did not merely offer verbal accusations, he backed up every single claim with an undeniable mountain of hard data. He systematically handed over encrypted text messages, detailed and time-stamped call logs, hidden financial records, and irrefutable digital evidence that explicitly documented the deep, ongoing collusion between Haley and Joey. The grand, malicious conspiracy aimed at completely destroying Bill was laid bare for everyone to see, stripped of all its deceptive camouflage. In a stroke of profound poetic justice, the very man who had once been Haley's most useful, reliable, and blindly loyal ally had ultimately transformed into the primary witness who orchestrated her spectacular and absolute downfall. As the dust finally began to settle on this extraordinary sequence of events, the profound impact of Randy's courageous choice became brilliantly clear. Bill was ultimately saved from a catastrophic fate, his life, his legacy, and his future preserved simply because Randy had made the incredibly difficult choice to speak the truth before it was tragically too late. The relief that washed over Bill and his remaining allies was immeasurable. For Mona, the outcome provided a deeply emotional validation of her core philosophy. She realized with profound satisfaction that she had been absolutely right to trust her instincts and to believe that a spark of genuine goodness still resided within Randy's battered soul. Her unwavering faith had literally saved a life and brought down a criminal enterprise. As for Joey and Haley, the architects of so much pain and suffering, their reign of terror had finally come to an abrupt and humiliating end. Stripped of their power, their secrets, and their allies, they are now left to face the severe, inevitable legal and personal consequences arising directly from the very same dark conspiracies they had so arrogantly set into motion. The landscape of the city will never be the same, and the echoes of this betrayal and redemption will be felt for years to come.